everyone, it's Justine, and thank you for joining me today. I'm going to be creating a bulk card tutorial here for 5 cards that took me less than 25 minutes to make, and I'm going to be using the Simon Says Stamp Bouquet of Thanks stamp. Now this video here features very limited supplies that you can use, and most of these supplies you probably already have in your stash. So remember, you don't need to use the exact flower stamp that I'm using, unless of course you really like it. You can use one from your stash, or you can pick one up from the store. So I'm going to be grabbing 5 card panels and putting all of them into my MISTI at the same time. I'm going to be stamping these using Memento black ink because when I was first creating this video, I didn't know if I was going to be coloring them in, so I wanted to use a Copic marker friendly safe ink. Now that I know I didn't color them in, I probably would have used VersaFine ink. So I'm going to stamp this on all 5 card panels. Sometimes you need to stamp them a couple of times in order to get a good impression, especially because this is a brand new stamp. Now you can see once I've stamped it 5 times, I have no problem just stamping it one time. So I'm going to clean off my ink and remove the stamp, and I'm going to load up one of the card panels. Now I'm going to choose a stamp from the Big Greetings 1 stamp from Simon Says Stamp. This is also a new release. It's a really cool font, and I'm going to be using the sentiments that take up only one line. Now, of course, you can make all 5 cards the same, or you can do what I did and you can use one different sentiment on each of the cards so you have 5 different cards for different occasions. This is really good for a giveaway for a friend or, of course, to use for yourself. So I grabbed the Congrats stamp for the first one and I masked off this flower stamp here. Now I'm using Inkadinkado masking paper and I used my scanning cut to die cut this because I don't have the actual die cut itself, but I'll link to the die cut below so that you can actually buy the die that matches this flower and easily cut it out. My scanning cut didn't cut out the stems very well, so I don't really mind because they're so small. As long as the flowers are covered, I'm happy. So I'm going to put this at the top of my card, and I am going to stamp at every 1/2 inch because that's approximately the size of the stamp set. It's just under 1/2 inch. So I'm using Simon Says Stamp Rosie Cheeks ink, and I am going to be inking this up one at a time. So what I do is I stamp it onto my card, and then I move it 1/2 inch up to the top, and then continue on. So each time I'm moving 1/2 inch. Now eventually you're going to run out of space, but that's okay because you can actually have your card hang out of the MISTI and it won't bend or damage it. So now that you've seen me stamp it a couple of times, I'm going to speed up the video here and you'll see that I just keep moving it 1/2 inch up. It's not an issue whatsoever. But I did notice with this card that it is a little off center, which isn't a big deal because I'm going to cut them down later anyway. So I'm going to remove the mask so you can see what it looks like, and I'm just going to add the mask onto the other one. Now sometimes your mask might rip, it's not a big deal, you just need to stick it on then in pieces, and actually I found this to be easier when I was using the mask. If you're using the die cut, to cut this, it should actually be a lot stronger and you won't have any issues. So I love the fact that the Congrats just stamps and then the white is just on the flower, and it's just so elegant and pretty and so clean and simple. So for the second card, I'm using the Big Thanks, and again moving it up 1/2 inch each time and removing the mask and adding it to the new one. So I'm going to do this 5 times on all 5 backgrounds, and I'm going to use a different sentiment for each one. So for this one I'm using Love and Hugs, for example, and then for the next one I'm continuing on making different themes. Now, if you're planning on keeping your backgrounds the same size as what I have on the screen right now, then you may not want to consider doing all the sentiments. However, if you're going to cut them down like I do, I wouldn't suggest using the So Amazing because it is very long, and when I cut them down, it cuts some of those words off, so it kind of looks like it doesn't make sense. Just a word to the wise. So once I was finished there, I decided, because some of mine were off center a little bit, that I was going to just remove the mask here and then I was going to cut them down using a stitched rectangle die. Of course, you can cut them down using a regular paper trimmer if you don't have this. So as I run them through my Big Shot machine, I'm just carefully lining them up so that the flower doesn't get cut off too much, and then this sentiment fits on the inside, which was, as I mentioned, a little bit more difficult with that You're Amazing or So Amazing, whichever one it said, on the background. So just be careful with the sentiments you're using, again, if you're cutting these down. So once all those were finished, then I just needed to stick these onto some card bases, and I used just some regular Tombow Mono liquid adhesive to do that. And as you can see, my cards are coming together really nicely. I think this makes such a pretty set. They're very clean and simple and elegant, adding that pop of color with the Rosy Cheeks ink. The last thing I wanted to do, however, was to add a little bit of embellishment to that, and the bubblegum drops from Nuvo drops actually are the same color as the Rosy Cheeks from Simon Says Stamp, or they're pretty close. So I added a couple of the Nuvo drops onto the card, just 3 of them, to add a little bit of an extra embellishment and some more interest to the card. I hope you enjoyed today's card tutorial and found a quick and easy way to make bulk cards. If you're interested in any of the supplies I used, they're listed below in the video description, as well as photo links on my blog. You can subscribe to my channel, or you can check out 2 other videos featuring bulk card tutorials. Thank you so much for watching, everyone, and have a great day.